Hi everybody! So today I want to talk to you guys about the Books of Magic. The Books of Magic are two separate comic series published by DC and Vertigo. The original 4-part miniseries was published in 1990 and was written by Neil Gaiman. It introduces the story of Timothy Hunter, a kid with magical powers and a lot of daddy issues. The other is an ongoing series featuring the same characters in the same world, and it was written by a man named John Ney Rieber, and it ran from 1994 to 2000. The character of 14-year-old Timothy was created as an everyman, given the opportunity to tour the entirety of the DC universe, from its origin history to our present day, to other worlds like Camelot, Fairy, and even Hell, and all the way to the end of a possible universe. The nature of Tim's journey allowed Neil Gaiman to use characters from across the DCU that weren't currently in print at the time. The series was so popular that after its short run, it was remade into an ongoing series by DC's daughter company, Vertigo. You don't need one to read the other. I actually didn't know about the 4-part miniseries when I bought it. I had originally gone to the comic book shop to purchase the ongoing series and then bought this one by mistake. The whole miniseries is collected in the single trade-back issue, while this volume, titled Bindings, only collects issues 1 to 4 of the 75-issue series. 75 issues, holy crap. I did not know that this was 75 issues when I started. That's a pretty good run for what started off as a miniseries. On the title page of the ongoing series, Neil Gaiman is credited as a consultant, a title and paycheck he would claim until issue 50, when he and head writer John Rieber retired from the series, claiming that the character Timothy had gone as far as they could take him. Peter Gross would continue to write and illustrate the series for another 25 issues. After issue 75, Timothy Hunter was given a little rest from his adventures to give him enough time to grow up for his final arc in the series called Hunter: Age of Magic. This series would be the last 25 issues of Timothy as he grows from being a whiny preteen into that he was always meant to be. I didn't realize Timothy's adventures would be so expansive when I picked up the series. It makes me kind of excited to see where the story could go. On Wikipedia, some of the writers said that they had a hard time with Timothy's character because he tends to be a little bit whiny, and you definitely get that feeling in, these two books, that he's, a preteen with sass. But if I get to watch Death roll her eyes and put Tim in his place whenever he gets uppity, I think I can deal with that. So what did I think of these two books? I liked them. They both have distinct flavors in their storytelling and their art style, but not enough that I feel like DC is cashing in on a title. A lot of love was put into these series. Back to the miniseries. The first book is less about Timothy the character and more about the world around him. The story starts with John Constantine and Mr. E. Got it? Mr. E. They both tell Tim that magic is real and he has the potential of being the most powerful magician in the world, if he wants to. Tim is like, hold up, I don't believe you. So Mr. E takes him to the beginning of time when the universe was created. This is represented by the fall of Lucifer and the angels as they are cast out from heaven. Tim goes on a perspective-inducing journey across the endless story of old and dead worlds, the art of which is really beautiful, and you should really experience for yourself. And that's just the first arc. Some other stuff happens, and we get to hang out with Constantine and Zatanna, who are totally boning, or want to bone. You get the picture. I was going to pick my favorite arc in the 4 featured in this collected edition, but I really love the book as a whole. I think my least favorite chapter is the one exploring the present day, but even still, that's just because it has the unfortunate luck of being juxtaposed next to other worlds and the birth and death of the whole universe. Narratively, for the piece as a whole, it works out pretty well. The end of the series leaves Timothy with a choice: continue living with his father in a normal life, or embrace his new reality of magic and danger. I think you can guess what he picks. The miniseries has amazing art and works very well as a standalone series. I'm not that into rating systems, but if you like magic and fantasy and adventure and Neil Gaiman existentialism, then this is probably a read for you. Now, in the first volume of the ongoing series, we pick up shortly after the miniseries ends. Tim is still living with his father and feeling neglected, and unsure of how magic plays into holding the world together. Elsewhere in the universe is the dying world of Fairy. Here we meet the Falconer, who is summoned by the Queen of Fairy, Titania. Without going into too much detail, Fairy has been dying for a while, but the Queen refuses to acknowledge it, instead surrounding herself with enough glamour to trick herself into thinking everything is okay. I'm a little disappointed with her character in the ongoing series. She's depicted as a pretty incompetent ruler who's prone to temper tantrums, a bit of a fall from her depiction in the miniseries. After this conversation, the Falconer searches out for Timothy with the intention of using his power to restore Fairy. Timothy gets jerked around a lot in this volume. His parentage is called into question, and there's some creepy guy who wants to eat his soul. Timothy even finds himself in a meeting with Death herself. We meet Death in the original Books of Magic, but she calls the Sandmen series her home. Here she has taken interest in Timothy after meeting him at the end of the universe. Whenever Tim gets into trouble, he tends to confront it with a sassy attitude, but Death is quick to put him in his place. The art style in the ongoing series is a bit wonky at times, but is still capable of giving those really nice magical shots that happen in a series like this. The language can be a bit flowery, but I think that's Rieber's attempt at harnessing the Gaiman. Overall, I enjoyed the series, but I didn't really find myself empathizing with characters that weren't Timothy, especially the Falconer and the Queen. At one point, the Falconer blames his angst for being more hawk than man on the Queen, but then immediately reminisces fondly about learning the skill from Merlin. I get that he doesn't want to be her tool anymore, but that's a little petty. The series also takes some typical fantasy turns, where it places a lot of emphasis on the relationship between father and son. We do get introduced to someone who could potentially be Tim's mother, but she has no interest in him, even after some crazy stuff happens that puts Tim's life in danger. I say typical because I've seen it in a lot of movies where there's just this impossible, unbreakable connection between a biological father and his biological son, ignoring the fact that, like, Tim had a father his whole life, but that guy wasn't really interested in Timothy. It's suspected very early on that he isn't actually Tim's father. And between the two female characters, like, one of them was already established as a character in the DC universe, and the other one's just a flake. So, you know, they're both on the cover, but they're both kind of just footnotes in this particular volume. Like, they're there, they just don't really serve much of a purpose, other than to be introduced. And this is the first couple of issues, so that's pretty fair of them to do. But if they don't develop as characters as the series goes on, like, I might be kind of disappointed. Overall, I think these are both good introductions to the world and these characters. There's mystery and intrigue and enough dangerous whimsy in their adventures to suit the fantasy genre. I didn't realize the series was so long when I started, but I do think I'm going to continue reading it to see where Timothy goes on his journey. So for comics that were published over 20 years ago, they still hold up narratively and I'd say artistically as well. If you're not interested in investing almost 100 issues of your life into studying Timothy's journey, then I totally recommend the original Books of Magic. It's short, and it's just a little bite for Timothy's world. Have something to say or a suggestion of what I should read next? Leave a comment down below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, you know, all that jazz. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my review. See ya!